Good morning, or it's afternoon now. It's actually like 2 p.m. I'm having a super late start to the day. Our youngest was up most of the morning. She got up at like 2 a.m. and was up until like 4 a.m., 5 a.m. So I slept in this morning. Paul got the kids situated before he went to work and told them to let me sleep. So late start to the day. I am also coming off of a week of intense poison ivy blisters all over the inside of my hands, so I have not been able to process any food because I can't grip a knife. Even with gloves on, it's painful. I'm back, and you might notice that I have a completely different shirt on. I had a cow out, so I went outside and put her back in, and then while I was putting her back in, the jersey got out, and the jersey's halter was covered in God knows what. So I have a tank top on underneath this, so I took off my other shirt that was also on top of the tank top and used it to like grab hold of the halter and walk her back in. So, but I'm back and livestock never really let your day go as planned. Especially if you're like finally on a good track and you're like, okay, I'm gonna get something done, and they're like, yeah, no, you're not actually. So I need to get these cookies that are done behind me on the cookie rack and put some new ones in the oven, put the rest of these in the oven. And then I just realized that I need to get some pickles done, so we're gonna do those today too. So I am doing today's pickles without dill because everybody's struggling with their dill this year. Nobody has dill for sale. Nobody successfully grew any dill. Mine like grew and then just all of a sudden died off right before I would need it. So that was a huge pain. But it is what it is. The spices that I use do have some dill in them. So that's alright. We usually fry these or put them in sandwiches, so they don't have to be perfect. Just that, you know, nice crispy pickle in there is really what matters. So these were, I don't know if I said already, but these were gingerbread molasses cookies, and they came out so good. They're so tasty. I will leave the recipe that I used linked below for those so you guys can try them out too. I totally ran out of parchment paper, which is a huge bummer because I hate using tin foil for stuff like this. But I also hate washing cookie sheets. So here we are. So I kind of never use a recipe for pickles, so they're probably not exactly the same every year. But they always taste good, so whatever. And I do roughly a little less than 50% vinegar, probably closer to like 40% vinegar and then 60% water. But I change the way I season my pickles almost every year because I'm always like in the mood for something different when I get around to making pickles. These are just going to be like your basic, what would be a dill pickle if we had dill on hand. Everything else that I pickled this year, I pickled in a sweet brine. So I did some cauliflower and some onions and other stuff, beets, all in a sweet brine because we really do enjoy sweet pickles. But I don't think I'm going to have much more than 4 quarts. Maybe I might have close to 6 quarts of pickles in there. I'm not 100% sure. We'll find out when we get there. But so anyways, I'm going to start this on the stove. I'm going to put some pickling spices in there as well, and a couple of cloves of garlic will go in each jar directly, and then we always put the dill or the fennel directly in the jar as well with the pickles, and then just pour the brine over everything. Right now the pickling spice mix that I have on hand is just the ball one. I just grabbed it because it was easier last year than mixing everything in separate, and it does have dill seed in it, so I guess that will help. This is my favorite way to make sure they stay crispy, is to brine them, and they have been in here a little longer than usual because of my poison ivy outbreak on my hand. So that was a little rough. I think I'm going to rinse them off before I cut them up because the brine has made the outsides a little slimy, but they smell fine. These have been brining for a week, the better part of a week, and I just took a slice off of one and tried it. It tastes like a fresh cucumber right off the plant outside. This is a wonderful trick. I learned this from Carolyn over at the Homesteading family, is where I saw this. We really enjoy sandwich slices, so that's how we're gonna do these today. You will notice that these pickles are a little big. When you're brining, you really don't notice a difference in crunch between a slicer and a regular pickling cucumber. I'm just gonna cut them like this, and we're just gonna stick them, and we're gonna stack them right in the jar. It helps if you turn the jar this way and stack them like this, and then you can get them in there nice and tight. These are a little tall. I might have to trim the ends of these bad boys. This is kind of what it looks like. So they're all in there. And this style, we use pickles mostly for sandwiches, so this is the style that we use the most. But also, these make a great fried pickle too, and that's like the second most common thing we use our pickles for. So I did get, I would have had 6 quarts, but a few that were on the bottom of the brine did get a little mushy, so I did push them a little too far. But I got 4 quarts out of them, which is fine. We still have some left over from last year. We really don't use that many pickles. It's fine, and it just means that I got it done quicker because there's some other stuff that I'd rather be doing than canning right now, which is odd because I do love the feeling of accomplishing getting a canning project done, but the project itself, I feel like canning is just always like it's just tedious. It takes up so much of my time. There's a lot of things you guys will find in this kitchen that I don't measure, especially my cooking. I do not measure with my cooking nearly at all. I do measure with the baking, obviously, but I do play with the baking as well. Like I almost always change recipes that I find online. I did not change the recipe that I found for those cookies though. And they're fantastic. Like I said, I'll leave that below so you guys can try that out. This brine is looking pretty strong. I may have put a little too much pickling spice in here, but that'll be alright because we're not adding anything else in here because we don't have the dill, and I didn't want to go out into the rain and pick the fennel. We have had rain non-stop here this summer, to the point where everybody's tomatoes rotted, nobody's getting hay put up, which is going to mean extremely high hay prices this winter, which is going to suck, or hay that's not available this winter, which is going to be even worse. We are going to see very long lines at our livestock auctions this winter, and that really is a bummer. Farming and homesteading is very much at the mercy of Mother Nature and what she decides to do and what she decides to give you. We did get enough tomatoes this year though to do our salsa, which is our biggest tomato product. We really don't use tomato products as much as we used to, mostly because they hurt my stomach a little bit, like pasta sauce. So we do a lot of white sauces, garlic sauces on our pasta, you know, lemon cream sauces, stuff like that. So where we used to make a whole bunch of pasta sauce too, we don't do that as often. All the tomatoes that we do get, our salsa's done. That's what we use the most of. We go through a ton of salsa. But our salsa's done. Any tomatoes that we have left over that we can get to ripen in here, or any that I have in the freezer, will go to pizza sauce, because that's the other thing that we use the most. We make pizzas or flatbreads once a week here from scratch, so we go through quite a bit of pizza sauce. These lids and rings were sanitized in very hot water. I do reuse lids. That is something that I'm not afraid of doing, because worst comes to worst, all that's going to happen is it's just not going to seal. And I've had more brand new lids fail me as far as sealing goes than I have had old ones. So we reuse our lids until we can't reuse them anymore. One of the things that I hate is when I see a lot of showing off going on from like your Instagram homesteaders and stuff like that about how expensive homesteading is. You know, like the joke about I spent $632 on one tomato or whatever. Well, yeah, that's funny. I think that it does make people nervous about getting into this lifestyle, because a lot of people don't realize that that really is just a joke. If you have a lawn, you can garden. You don't need fancy, expensive things to garden. And I think I want to start a series on that, on cheap, functional homesteading, because that's how we got started. We got started with homesteading 6-7 years ago because we were broke. But vegetable seeds are cheap, and so is freezing your vegetables or cooking from scratch. And then over time we just built up things like a stock of a bunch of canning jars or whatever. But we started off with the cheap stuff and figuring out how to do it in a cheap way, because it was going to save us a little bit of money at the grocery store. Homesteading does not have to be expensive. Homesteading was never meant to be expensive. Don't shy away from homesteading because you see the Instagram homesteaders doing pretty beautiful, crazy things with pretty beautiful equipment. I use my pressure canner as a water bath canner. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw these in my water bath canner, which is actually my pressure canner. I just haven't gotten my hands on a regular water bath canner yet. It's something I should really get, because I should be doing pickles in my water bath canner while I'm doing, like, you know, chili or something else in the pressure canner. But we'll get there. I'll get organized eventually. It's been a long summer.
Okay guys, so I totally forgot to get video of me taking the pickles out, and now they're in the pantry, so it is what it is. Thank you guys for stopping by. Thank you guys for joining. Happy homesteading.